Service advisors need to ask more questions when they're checking in, even an oil change. And yes, I'm at the ocean. It's like 35 degrees. What I mean by this is don't be an order taker. When a customer comes in for an oil change, don't just say, oh, you want the oil change and tire rotation? Sure, let me sign you up. And then you just don't check their mileage, don't check their history, and don't ask them any questions. It's your job to advise service, not write it. So don't just be an order taker. That customer doesn't know what they need. They don't know about their vehicle like you know about their vehicle. Like, you need to ask these questions. And here's a couple of examples of some good questions that you can ask. One great question is if you look down and look at the wheels and you notice it has a wheel lock, say, do you know where your wheel lock key is? Do you mind if we put it in a cup holder for our technician? Another great example is check the mileage. And if you see they're due for something or potentially due for something, ask them if they've had that service complete. I don't know what your intervals are. Some dealerships do 30,000 miles and do a coolant flush, and some OEMs don't recommend it till 100,000, but check that mileage and see what they're due for and ask them questions. You should also be checking their history to see if they've had any services done recently or if they were recommended brakes last time. That's another great question. How has your vehicle been stopping? How would you gauge your performance when cornering, when handling? Any noises, any rattles, anything that shouldn't be happening? Have you noticed anything bizarre lately? Ask these questions to prompt answers out of your customers, and it's not to sell them something. It's to remind them about that. Oh yeah, you know, I did mean to mention this rattling noise that I've heard going over bumps at 20 mile an hour. If you could look it over and maybe tell me what that is. And I know that might be a diagnostic, but if you don't have time for a diagnostic, you can say, hey, lube technician, check underneath for anything that might be loose and rattling. If you don't see anything, maybe we'll recommend a diagnostic at that time. Just ask those good questions. Set your technician up for success. It also sets you up for success because it's obviously going to help you with your CSI and it's going to help you with your metrics. Now, you might think CSI no, because I'm selling my customer things. If you're very attentive to your customer and you pay attention to what they need and you ask them good questions about their vehicle, they'll appreciate that, because I promise you, no one else is doing that right now. But that's enough for me on this topic. I'd like to hear from all of you. Do you think this is good advice, bad advice? Like always, your thoughts.